what is tailoring and why this is important for your project. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I do that in practice? I do that in several different ways, from helping to lay down important knowledge like training, but also helping a project manager to establish a good project routine in their projects, helping them to be more effective, to organize their project in better ways, coaching them and mentoring them how to develop their skills, and or even uh, may even providing consulting for different types of company. So if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in that journey. This is part of the warm up here for the Project Management Summit. So the content is part of the warm up for the Project Management Summit. Project Management Summit, it's a free event I'm going to make there to help you to further develop your project management skills, to help you to take the next steps, how you can move forward to develop your skills, and also developing your career there, know understanding how you can deliver more value, how you can be more effective there. The topic I'm going to talk about today is tailoring. Tailoring is a topic that's more trendy at this point, and I'm going to show you some data, also explain to you to why and why this is important, of course. But the first thing I need to explain what is tailoring. Basically, and here you see the formal definition from PMBOK. And if you do not know it, PMBOK stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. This is the project management standard from the Project Management Institute, PMI. That's the biggest project management institution around the world there. So tailoring, as a formal definition, is the deliberate approach to select a governance process to make them suitable for a specific environment in your project. To put that in common people language, because no one talks like that, what's tailoring? Tailoring is understanding that you need to adapt your project for a specific situation. Why this is important? First of all, let's start. Every project is unique. You can have all kinds of projects out there, and I'm going to show you very quickly here, and uh, I think a picture can say much more than I. All those things that you see here, the Coliseum, a new car, a new factory, a new iPhone, the Olympic Games, the World Cup, a new software, ChatGPT, a new product layer like the Air Jordan. It's like not exactly new, but it's a product anyway. All those things, they were projects at some point. And why I'm talking about back from the project definition? Because project is the project definition is very broad. So you find projects in all types of industries, for all types of different products, different service, for different types of outcome that you want there. That's why our project. That's why you can see the project as unique. Even though sometimes you feel like I'm going to make a new car, but I have a similar car that already that a similar product I already did it. But you're doing something new, and this is new, something new that you are doing that's unique. That's why it's a project there. And you can imagine that if you have all those big range of projects, you are going to have there's no one side one size fits all, because you cannot try to manage, for example, in this case here, that's a picture. This is a mining company in the middle of the Amazon. I've worked in this project here. I part of this picture here, I was working the expansion from the power supply from the mine. But in this project here, there were more than 10,000 people working only on the mine expansion there. They were expanding capacity, they were expanding the power supply, they were expanding the entire infrastructure of the mine there. So only in this project here, there were more than 10,000 people involved there. So you can imagine, and because of the location, because this is, you see all those green area here, this is the Amazon forest, that's a quite unique environment that you have. So to manage a project like that is quite different. For example, if you are going to develop a new software, or it's quite different if you are going to develop a new application. For example, here I'm talking about Android, but it can be iOS, or it can be even small business like a pizzeria trying to create an app for people to be able to order pizza from them. So this scenario, for example, from a mine, more than 10,000 people working, from an app for a pizza, to order pizza, that you might have maybe 5, maybe 10 people working on that. This, those are quite opposite scenarios there. From budget wise, from constraints, you can imagine if you are working in an application, well, everyone should be working in office or home office at least. So it's quite different. Well, if you are working this on mine, for example, you are in the middle of the Amazon forest there. So the kind of challenges that you are going to see in a project, that they're quite different and they are quite unique there. That's why you need to adopt what you're going to do there. And that's what tailor means. You're going to adapt to consider what type of project that you have, to see how you're going to manage it. You can adapt a project deciding on an approach. For example, you're going to use predictive, or we are going to use waterfall, or you're going to use Scrum, or you're going to use Kanban, or you're going to use stream programming, or you're going to try to mix both to see how you can get value from that. That's the idea of tailoring. It's every project is unique, so you understand your environment. Some companies, they already have embedded in their processes, their official process, some type of tailoring depending on the complexity of the project. For example, some projects are more simpler. I've worked with automotive companies that they had some projects that they classified. So they had a tool to classify projects. They classified a project as simple. So the process, the deliverables, the steps that you need to take, they were kind of much simplified. It was a much more lean process. But if you are developing something that's completely new type of product, a new technology, then they had a much more robust process. What's that? That's already tailoring and what you are going to do there. So the idea of tailoring is that you're going to select just enough that you need to deliver a project. What's just enough? Is, for example, if you look for the PMBOK 6th edition, there's a 49 process from 10 different knowledge areas. And one of those processes, therefore, one of those knowledge areas, it's procurement, and where you have a process called plan procurement for the project. Well, that might be in a project that you don't need procurement. So it does not make sense to use a process like that. If you are developing an app, you are not buying anything, you're coding everything. Yeah, you might not need to buy anything there. For a construction company, for example, yeah, you're going to need to buy steel, concrete. You're going to probably rent equipment, and you're going to buy different types of instruments that are needed there. So you need to have space to adapt, and this is what tailoring is about. So we are going to look. Okay, this is the environment I'm working on. So you are going to try to minimize the effort. Why? Because in our projects you are going to find some level of waste. What you want there is minimize waste. Because, for example, if you don't have procurement, but you're going to write a document just to say that you don't have procurement, you're wasting time. And you're wasting time creating a document that it has zero value added. So that's the idea of tailoring. Why? And to tell you also, tailoring is one of the project management principles from the PMBOK 7 edition. Why this is so important? Let me quickly show you the principles. So tailoring is one of the project management principles that you can see here. And tailoring is together directly connected with the idea of adding value. Why? Because if you are following the warm up of the project management summit, which I hope you are doing that, you understand that the focus of project management is adding value there. So why you are going to have a very robust process, a lot of steps for something that's not needed. So that's why tailoring is about. It's directly connected with the value that you can add. All processes that we do, they have waste. Everything that we do, it has waste. It's only part of that. And if you don't know that, it's also that also comes from the development one you can see like lean management, Toyota production system, and so on. But anything that we do, there's some level of waste. Of course, some types of process they have a lot of waste. Some other type of process, they are quite lean, as we like to call it, if the level of waste is reduced or is as minimal as it can be at the moment. But the idea is more add you want to value, if you want to add more value, one of the things that you can do is try to reduce much waste as possible. Why? Because keeping documentation will create more things. If you have more meetings, it can create waste. If those meetings don't have elements, so on. So that's the idea of tailoring there. To give you some perspective there on tailoring and why this thing is important. Let me go back here. So you see there in the last research from Project Management Institute, this is the Pulse of Professional of 2024. They show data about the use of different approach from predictive like waterfall to agile and from a hybrid approach where you mix it predictive, where you mix agile. So you do tailoring. You're going to look for predictive and agile, and you're going to select okay what it's best for my situation, what kind of tools, what kind of initiatives, what kind of processes from waterfall or from agile or scrum or kanban I can bring here to my project and can add value here there. That's what's going to be. Then you're tailoring an approach, and that's what's called hybrid approach. So you see here that the use of poorly predictive is going down in the past years. So you see 2020 from 2023, this number is going down. You see the use of agile, it has grown a bit in the initial in 21, 22, but then it starts to go down in 23. And what keeps growing is this hybrid approach. Why? Because companies are, or hopefully people, at least companies, it might be difficult to say, but project managers there start to understand that their focus is to add value. So your focus as a project manager is not use waterfall. Your focus as a project manager is not use Scrum or Kanban or Lean or any tool. Your focus is not working with documentation. Your focus is not running meetings. Your focus is to add value there. And that's why it's so important that you learn different project management approach there. For example, I see a lot, for example, people from construction company, they say, we use waterfall, so they kind of throw away agile. Say, this is has no use for us here. And I agree that a lot of those things on agile you cannot directly implement in a construction project. But if you learn agile, you learn what's agile, you learn with Scrum, you learn Kanban, that will give you different insights, that will show you different tools that will help you to add more value, even then if you are following a much more predictive approach there. One example, one of the things that you do or you should do in any type of project is collecting lessons learned or seeing how the team can operate. And for example, if you look onto Scrum, there is an event of Scrum called Sprint Retrospective that happens every sprint. So it happens every or at least it happens at least once a month. That the teams need to go together to discuss how they can better operate. Well, guess what? That's something that you also can use in a waterfall project to discuss with your team how you can improve communication, how you can better alignment, how you can avoid mistakes that has happened. So this is one of the ways that you can do tailoring. So you are taking ideas, insights from a different framework because you've learned it and you know it, and you are blending it in what you're doing that in a way with the focus of adding more value for organization. So more you do that, you start to create a hybrid approach, and then of course it will help you to add more value for the organization. That's why tailoring is so important because more approach you know, better tools that you know, higher the chances are that you can add more value. Higher the chances are that you can tailor your project in a better way. This is very much important because I've seen companies there struggling. For example, most of the companies, if you talk with them, if they're developing new products or new services, one of the very important factors for them, those companies, are time to market. Time to market means from the idea that they had until they fully develop and they can release the product or service there. So every company wants to go faster and reduce time to market. Well, If you have different type of course, then you're going to have different type of projects. And so I've worked with companies in the healthcare where they were developing like MRA machines, X-ray equipment. Then you can imagine the level of control, because it's also in healthcare. The regulation is very high, as it should be, because of course, if some of those machines don't operate properly, people might die because of that. So they have a very robust process for this type of development. But for developing a much more simple service, they were also using this very robust process there, which create a lot of inefficiency and what create a much longer time to market. So as a project manager, what you can do there is challenge this process, is looking for ways to simplify things. That's the idea of tailoring. Is if you understand tailoring, you should be able to understand, or you should look in what other ways you can add value for your company. And those other ways are going to be, you can customize your process, you can look into different type of meetings and events that you can have. You're going to learn, if you learn different approaches, probably you can learn different perspectives in how you can improve your leadership, how you can improve your teamwork, what other types of control they have there, what other types of key performance indicators they have there. That's why again, it's so important to learn waterfall. It's also why it's so important to learn agile. That's why I always say, if you have been following also part of the content I've been creating for already more than 2 years, I always say that knowing only one is not enough. Not if you want to keep developing yourself, if you want to succeed, if you want to be a high value, if you want to be more valued for the market by the market. Because if you want to have a higher value perceived, of course you need to learn different ways how you can add more value for organization, how you can add more value for your team, how you can add more value into your project. And those different ways, they are going to help you. And guess what? The companies are looking for that. That's why you see hybrid approach growing, because the companies, they want those skills there. And the companies are facing new challenges every day. So you're not hired again. I've already mentioned that, but it's very important. If you say you're a Scrum Master, what's your main focus as a Scrum Master? Your main focus as a Scrum Master is not running Scrum. Your main focus as a Scrum Master is delivering value. Your main focus as a project manager is delivering value. In different situations, this value can, what is value will change. Of course, sometimes you are going, if you're a Scrum Master, sometimes you're going to teach Scrum for the team. Some other times you are going to make facilitations, or some other times you are going to clear roadblocks. Some other times you're going to help product owner to better prioritize the tasks, to make better clear items in the backlog. And there's all different steps that you can use Scrum to add value. But your end goal is not use Scrum. Your end goal is not use Waterfall. And that's what you see here. Your end goal is not running meetings. Your end goal is not having key performance indicators. And hopefully you have been following the warm-up content for the Project Management Summit, and you understand a bit of that already, because I have been mentioning this is probably the third, or at least the third episode I'm talking about that one. So this is why tailoring is important for you. But what are the dimensions of tailoring that you must consider while you are selecting a project? Now you understand why tailoring is important. Let me show you some things that you need to take into consideration to tailor a project there. There are basically four dimensions that you need to take a look before you tailoring something. The first one is the company itself. Of course, you cannot select any type of approach without understanding the company. What's understanding the company? You need to understand the company culture, the leadership style. What are the project management processes that are in place? What are the change management processes are there in place? What kind of knowledge that you have inside of a company? Nowadays, for example, agile is a big trend. So a lot of companies they try to jump in on that, but a lot of companies they have zero knowledge on agile. And of course, when they jump into something, it's going to fail. And there's even data showing that this is going to fail. And I'm going to show you, and I've already shown this before if you are following me for a bit longer. That there's research showing that 65% of software engineers projects using Agile Manifesto practice fail. Why? Because Agile does not work? No, because if you go and read the research, they are saying that they're not following exactly Agile. They take some things that they like and they ignore the rest. So you need to understand the company. What type of leadership that you have there? You have leadership that's open, that help you to empower your team, or you have a leadership that's likes much more micromanaging, that does not give space for the team to decide it, or you have a project management process that I already mentioned in the case of healthcare that's very robust, and the company wants to use the same very robust project management process for everything that they do it. That already gives you an idea. Of course, in a case like that, as a project manager, you always should challenge things. If you see waste and if you see things that they do not make sense, you should always challenge that because also it helps the company to see that you as a valued professional there. Of course, there's a right way to challenge things. It's not saying no, I'm not going to do it, and it's not fighting with people. You need to explain the reasons why you're doing that. But also from so the first dimension you need to understand is the company. The second dimension is the customer. Why? Types of contracts are different. For example, if you have a fixed type of fixed price contract with a customer, depending on the approach like if you want to follow, it will be much more difficult because a fixed price contract will make more difficult to adapt because every time you change a scope, there's a cost for doing that. There's time required to do that. If and someone needs to pay it. If the company does not want to pay it, that means that goes out from the margin of your project. So it's a different type of challenge that you have there. Collaboration with the customer. Is the customer willing to collaborate very close with you to develop something? Or I've worked with a customer that once said, "You are the specialist. I'm not following up what you do here. I don't care. As long as you deliver this when I need it, at the cost that I need it, I do not care what you do there. That's why I hired you. Solve it, figure out a way to do it." And I've worked with the customers that say, "I want to make all the steps with you. I want to participate in all the decisions with you." That's why it's important to understand what kind of customer that you are working on. Another one, team. What's the size of team that you have? What's the maturity that you have in your team? I've seen a company once with a Scrum initiative there. They were trying to run some teams with Scrum, but of course they did not train all the team members in Scrum. And what they did there, some of those team members they were sitting there and waiting, saying, "Yeah, okay, we are running a sprint, but there's no activity that's assigned for me, so I'm not going to do anything." Well, if you have this type of maturity in the team, you're going to have challenge to use, for example, Scrum. As it happens in this company, the Scrum initiative failed. So does it mean that Scrum does not work? No, that doesn't mean that the initiative and the implementation by itself it was poor. But of course, that will affect how you need to move forward with that. So think about that. Other very important thing, the project. You can, what's the scope that you need to do it? What are your delivery options? What's the type of project? What's the increment effort? There's a quote of James Clear that says that if it's expensive to fail, plan carefully. If it's cheap to fail, go and execute it. More or less, that's more or less what I mean by the quote. I don't remember the wording. What does it mean by that? Or if think about you're managing a project, it's a big construction project. It's a bridge. Then you are working the foundation. Then the foundation just completed. Then someone say, "Oh, by the way, we need to adapt something. We need to change the type of concrete that you are using here in the foundation." How you're going to adapt something like that? You need to break everything off, clean everything off, and start the foundation again. The cost of doing something like that it's very high, time consuming, very impactful for the project. So better to plan in advance here, making sure that you have all the right steps before you go and execute a foundation for a building. What if you're working to application? Might be a software application there. Uh, what you're going to do there? if you have 14 members working in the same room and they figure out, okay, this piece of the code here, we need to change it, we need to adapt it because the interface does not look nice to the user. Of course, the time and the effort to adapt something like that, it's always there, but it's much more reduced than a foundation for a bridge. In the other hand, you say, okay, let's plan in a lot of details what's going to be this interface, so we make sure that there's no need to change it. Well, but if you're going to collect feedback from the user, the only way that you're going to know if it's good or not, it's when the user see it, they say, okay, I like it or not. Whatever you want to plan in advance, yeah, of course, there's always planning, any type of approach that you follow, but it's much easier to adapt. So you always need to think about the increment effort. By increment, I mean if you want to adapt something, if you need to change something, what's the cost? Sometimes the cost and the time it's very prohibitive. Very often, when you are talking about hardware product, depending what type of product you are developing. For example, I've worked developing supply chain. A lot of the things that I was doing there was with plastic components. And a lot of the components that I had there, they were connectors, for example. Plastic connector, small piece, to reach the right connector to make sure that it has the right specification. To make sure the connection goes right every time that you plug in. What happened there? That the tool development for something that go like that could go easily around 20, 25 weeks of development just for the tool, just for the hardware there. And if you need, okay, let's make an adaptation because we measure the plastic connectors out of the spec here. We need to adapt. Just to adapt this tool, there would cost easily there around 4 weeks to adapt it. And of course, there's always a cost to adapt. But as long as, of course, if you plan it right, because if suddenly you figure out the connector is much bigger than it should, yeah, you cannot increase the material again in the mold. So adapting needs to even the adaptation that kind of adaptation that you would have possibility in a scenario like that, you would have to think in advance. Otherwise, it would cost weeks of your project, maybe few thousands of dollars or euros. But the weeks of your project, because this was for the automotive industry, could kill your entire project there, or could create a huge problem with a customer. For example, if you are not don't have experience with automotive, I've worked with that for a few years already. In the automotive industry, if you cause a line stop in a big OEM, a big manufacturer that you have there, like BMW, Volkswagen, Ford, Tesla, a line stop is that they cannot produce a car because there's not enough material, there's not enough components there. A line stop in a factory like that uh, could cause could cost easily. For example, for a BMW factory in Munich, there I know that because I've been there, I've worked with them. The line stop costed 10,000 euros per minute. So if you say, okay, 1 hour, 600,000 euros, 2 hours, 1.2 million, that goes very fast. So of course you need to plan very carefully because if suddenly you figure out that something is not working there and your product does not work and it's because your fault because you misplanned something, that can be very expensive. And again, so those are critical dimensions that you need to consider while you are tailoring. And why? I'm going to repeat it again. Every project is different. Every company is different. Every industry is different. Every customer is different. All the team members are different. We are we are all different people. We are all unique, which is very nice and very good. Otherwise, we would live in a very boring world. But what does it mean? That you need to adjust how you're going to work, how you're going to communicate, and this is what tailoring is about. Stop thinking about that you're going to have a procedure or a template, and that they are going to go. They can be used in all types of projects all the time. No, you have the. So that's why I always talk about it's important for you to learn the different things: waterfall, agile, plus other stuff, finance, leadership, teamwork, to handle your time management, to be more effective, and so on. But that's stuff that also we are going to discuss more during the project management summit, and that's of course stuff that I talk during my development programs. But you also need to make sure that you you have the minimal knowledge to execute something. So very important that what you are doing here. Every person is unique, so you're not going to be able to plug and play everything as it works, because I get also all those questions in general. How many projects a project manager should handle it? That depends. Projects are different, companies are different, industries are different, teams are different, so I cannot say. Of course, if you talk about one company in a specific department, then you might be able to get something that makes a bit more sense. But in general, for everything, there's not. There is no side, one size fits all in project management. Be careful with that. And this is why Taylor is so important. This is what Taylor is about, and this is why it's important for you as a project management to understand tailoring, which I hope you do right now. You should understand what's tailoring, what are the important dimensions that you need to consider while tailoring a project, and you should understand why tailoring is growing into the industry or into different type of companies there. Again, this content is part of the warm up for the Project Management Summit. This is the episode number 6 of the warm up, and I do expect that you like it. That again, I've already mentioned in one of the previous episodes, but I'm going to mention again. If you have questions, reach out. You can make your questions here in the comments. You can put your questions in the Q&A box that's open in my Instagram stories every day. You can send me a direct message on Instagram stories, or if you subscribe for the Project Management Summit, at some point you are going to get one email from me. You can reply those emails with your questions there, because if you don't ask questions, it will be much more challenging for me to make sure that I can help you to grow into your career. So there's no stupid question, but just make sure that you reach out in case you have questions. And so thank you, and I'm going to see you around. Bye.